the talent he is. Proper chatterbox yada. If you're keen, it'll be brilliant. Today, we're going to keep it simple. I'll bark out a basic command and you watch. Keen to know? He'll set your tail wagging. Does mine, hence why I'm backing him. Right then, Wookie here. Do take a seat, won't you? Give us your full attention while we listen to my pal, Yada.
It is my distinct pleasure and great honor to represent Yahweh and his beloved Son, as we bring you this program, Episode 2, on the basics regarding Pesach, which is Passover. We have a lot to learn, so we're going to get right at it. And we found that God himself confirmed what was going to transpire via Passover with the sacrifice of the lamb as early as the Exodus, drawing a blueprint for what we should expect. He said, therefore, say unto the children of Yisrael, I am Yahweh. So we start with that, don't we? God's name. He is not Hashem. He is not Jesus. He is not Adonai, the Lord. He most certainly isn't Allah. Yahweh is a God with a name. He is the only God, and his only name is Yahweh. Say unto the children of Yisrael, I am Yahweh. Should you think this doesn't apply to you because you're not amongst the children of Yisrael? Goodbye. You're right, it doesn't. Now, if you're still here and still listening, you may want to have reaffirmed that Yisrael means individuals who engage and endure with God. If you are not counted among them, then it's true. This would not apply to you. If you are among those who endure and who are enabled by God, then welcome. Say to the children of Israel, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you out. I will deliver you. I will withdraw you from under all of the burdens and forced labor, the compulsory service works of religious and political oppressors of Mitzrayim, of being subjugated by man. And I will deliver you, rescuing and defending you, indeed, saving you from being harassed, overworked, enslaved to such institutions. And I will redeem you with the Zeroah, with the protective shepherd, the sacrificial lamb, and the one who cultivates the seeds for a productive harvest. And it is true. God has and will redeem his people, not once but twice, in this manner, through the Zeroah. The Zeroah who served as the sacrificial lamb of Passover nearly 2,000 years ago, and that would be his beloved son, David. And also by the one who is cultivating the seeds that he has sown for a productive harvest. That would be his herald, Yada. And he will fulfill his responsibility on Teruah in year 6000 Yah 2033. So this reads, and I will redeem you with the Zeroah, the strong arm, protective shepherd, sacrificial lamb, and one cultivating the seeds of the harvest, engaged and extended, along with many important decisions and extraordinary judgments. Shafat Gadol, along with somebody who executes extremely good judgment. Now, for more on their role in our redemption, these Zeroah, and what they accomplish on behalf of the people, let's consider the title's first appearance. I'm going to share with you a narrative on the Zeroah. The first appearance in the Torah, it occurs in the 49th chapter of Bereshith, Genesis. There we find Jacob blessing his sons, the children of Yisrael. And while addressing Yosef, who became a legend while in Mitzrayim, and who I think serves as the first engagement of the man we have known to love and esteem, respect as Moshe. This is what he said of Yosef. And before announcing that Benjamin would be a ravenous wolf dividing the spoil, he said this of Yosef: the unbending resolve, the fierce determination shall remain consistent throughout perpetuity. This Zeroah, sacrificial lamb, protective shepherd, strong arm, will complete his intended mission. It pretty much seals the deal in terms of my theory, doesn't it? That Yosef was the first to carry the spirit, the soul, I should say, that became Moshe. It is how Yahweh came to know Moshe by name and recognized that he would serve powerfully in Egypt and that he would accomplish the mission because he had already done so before. And while we are told that Moshe was one of the three great Zeroah in God's story, by calling Yosef a Zeroah, we have a affirmation that he is indeed Moshe. And for those who haven't followed along that might say, what are you talking about? The first rendition of Moshe's soul being in Yosef, what we have learned is that God plays favorites. And he has come up with a way of not interfering with the ordinary flow of time, nor with free will, nor upending the commitment he made to work through people as opposed to speak directly to people. He made that decision. He said it was better that he would speak through the likes of Moshe, for example, and not directly to his people because that's what they had requested. And he also knew that was the best way to go about this process. So God chose certain people that he came to trust, that he had watched and had seen that they were observant, thoughtful, responsive, and dependable. And those people he deployed over and over again during his story to make certain that his plans stayed apace. And Joseph, who became Moshe in his next iteration, is one of them. You know, the most important of these is Dod, who began as Adam, the soul of Adam, the man, the firstborn of Yahweh, is Dod. And his friend, his closest supporter, then as now, was Chanuk. And we have followed their lives through God's story, along with Chanuk's beautiful wife, who is now the Amma, the most productive of mothers. So it says, his Zeroah, this strong arm of his, serving as the protective shepherd, the one who is cultivating the harvest, will complete his intended mission. And yes, indeed, although it was challenging, Moshe would, and so would Joseph. His capable hand is enabled by the power and influence of the mighty one, the one with strength, power, the truth of the Father, Abir, of Jacob, out of whom there is, namely, the shepherd, the Ra'ah, the rocky crag, the Eben, for Yisrael, for those who engage and endure with God. Bereshith, in the beginning, Genesis 49:24. It's poetic, isn't it? Certainly prophetic. Now, turning to the son who was sold into slavery by his brothers and then trumpeted over that adversary in Egypt, Jacob also said the following of Joseph, which means it's a name that means Yahweh increases. He adds to. He magnifies through Joseph. As a result of God, your Father, you will be helped. You will be supported. You will be helpful and supportive, accompanied by Shaddai, the one who is satisfactory and sufficient, the one who is accepting and reasonable, who is necessary and suitable, who is adequate and appropriate. It's from She, who is, and Day, enough to show the way. So accompanied by Shaddai, the one who is satisfactory and sufficient, he will bless you and accommodate and acclaim through you with the benefits of the spiritual realm, inexhaustible and unfathomable, deeply moving blessings, stretching out and lying beneath, the blessings of the breast and the womb. He will be the one who is supportive of the very life of the children of Israel. The gifts and the blessings of your Father overwhelmingly confirm and establish this relationship, over and above the gifts and blessings of those who gave me life, as far as the extreme limits of what one could desire into perpetuity, and an external witness of the everlasting summit on these hills, these mounts. He's saying that, Joseph, you'll be far greater than I can even imagine, and all that you're going to do throughout time as an eternal witness. It is his desire that they will always remain in association with the head, the leadership of Joseph, and upon the crown of the devoted leader who was set apart from his brothers. It was true of Joseph, it was true of Moshe. It is a profoundly important blessing, is it not? And it tells you about the Zeroah. Now, why would I speak of Zeroahs as it relates to Passover? Well, the Torah's definition of Zeroah is sacrificial lamb, the Passover lamb. That's why. And so all we can learn about those who serve in the role of Zeroah, the better we will understand Passover. And of course, the fulfillment of Passover, followed by matzah, leads to Bikurim, and Bikurim to Shabuah. And it is the role of the final Zeroah to cultivate that harvest. Well, as we know, Joseph was the first to enter Mitzrayim after Abraham and Sarah. Later in his life, his father, Jacob, would arrive with his descendants because of all that had transpired. And now it was time to bring Yisrael home. So the third use of Zeroah is found in Shemoth Names 15:16. The discussion begins, as do the others, talking about redemption, which is the business of the Zeroah. It reads, in your mercy, you have guided and led this family and these people whom you have redeemed. Isn't that lovely? As an expression of Yahweh's unfailing kindness and genuine favor, his devotion and love, you have guided and led this family, these people, whom you have redeemed as a Gaal, a kinsman redeemer. In so many ways, these are prototypes for God's beloved Son, Dowd, our Savior. You have caringly escorted and sustained them by your strength and your might. This happens to be Boaz. It's another harbinger of the Boaz who would be the Baal husband of Ruth, the shepherdess. And they too would deliver the kinsman redeemer, Gaal. This is simply a harbinger of that event. You have carefully escorted and sustained them with your strength and with your might, Boaz, into your set-apart abode, your pasture and your shepherds. Were you shepherd, I should say. Shemoth names, Exodus 15:3. So within this context of the family being led and guided by God to his set-apart abode following their redemption, Moshe revealed something they would otherwise have known nothing about. The current occupation of the promised land, the current occupants of the promised land, would ultimately quiver upon the arrival of Yahweh's Ra'ah, his shepherd, the Mashiach, and the Zeroah. And so we read, the family and people have heard that they will tremble and they will shake. They will be agitated and indeed anguished as birth pang seize the inhabitants of Palestine. Then at that time, the bewildered and dismayed leaders of Edom, along with those who govern Moab, will be seized. Under the great distress of all of the inhabitants of Canaan, which means brought down, they're going to melt away. Terror and dread will befall them because of the great power and phenomenal ability, the Gadol of your Zeroah, your strong arm, your protective ram, your sacrificial lamb, and the one cultivating the ultimate harvest. They will be silenced and still as stones forever as your people pass by, Yahweh, as the people whom you have created and acquired. Celebrate the eternal witness of Passover. Shemoth names, Exodus 15:16. Now, the fourth occurrence of Zeroah is found in Bamidbar in the wilderness, Numbers 6:19, a book that I have come to cherish. It leaves no doubt that Zeroah also represents the sacrificial lamb of God and the door to eternal life. It says the one officiating, the Cohen, shall select and obtain the sacrificial lamb, the Zeroah, the ram, the AL, which has been roasted, one unyeasted cake out of the basket, and one thin unyeasted wafer, and then give them as a gift upon the open hands of the Nazir, the one who is uniquely separated and dedicated to God. After he has been cut off and separated, Bamidbar in the wilderness, Numbers 6:19. And he was cut off. He was separated from the land of the living. He is the most uniquely dedicated of God. He is the ultimate Zeroah. He is Dode. So that we have an appreciation of the timing of the year that all of this took place and continues to take place, which is why we're celebrating Pesach this evening. I'm going to continue to do a program on episode 2 now of Pesach. Episode 3, I hope to do later this evening. But we will do this program. Here it is now in Atlantic time in the midst of the Caribbean, almost 4:30. We began at 4. I hope to have enough voice to carry on to 6. We're going to celebrate with our Passover dinner with family. Leah and I, we have both Rich and Perry here. Perry is in the kitchen now. He is doing much of the preparation. And we are looking forward to doing this show as Rich produces it right up until 6 o'clock, where we'll have enough time to watch the sun go down, have our celebration of Passover dinner. And then after that dinner, at about 7 o'clock Eastern time, which is also Atlantic time, we'll fire up our outdoor blaze and continue for a while on episode 3 of Pesach as we continue to present the basics. That is our plan for this evening, and then we'll finish what's left to share on Pesach, which will be riveting as we go into Psalm or Mizmor 22 to conclude this series. God says, "Then the flax and the barley were knocked down, for indeed the flax was budding, and the barley was young and formative." You see, the timing of Pesach is the 14th day of the first month of the year, and that month is determined by the beginning of renewed light on the moon, when the flax is in bud, and when the barley is young and formative. The winter barley crop is typically ready for harvest, is young and formative, as the flax is flowering right around the vernal equinox. May or March 22nd is that time now on our calendar. And so this year, the renewing light on the moon was almost coterminous with that date, making it very easy to determine where we would begin our counting of 14 days. And tonight is based upon what would be considered the astronomical measurement, but I chose it because we already have a full moon. And on the 13th and evening and the 14th evening of a month, we would expect a waxing and full moon, which is why I've moved it up from our original plan to celebrate it on Friday. We'll be celebrating matzah on Family Hour. Then the flax and the barley were knocked down, for indeed the flax was budding, and the barley was young and formative. So therefore, provide a written accounting and a record, which can be orally recited to your children and to your grandchildren, that to reveal the way to the benefits of the relationship, I was justified in dealing harshly with the foolishness of the religious and political oppressors of Mitzrayim. These signs, these oaths, reminiscent of what God said in the first chapter of Bereshith, is it not? The signs of the Moedim, the greater and lesser luminaries. These signs were set before them to reveal the benefit of knowing, of recognizing Yada, so that you acknowledge that indeed I am Yahweh. Exodus 10:2. So Moshe and Aaron went to Pharaoh, and they said to him, "This is what Yahweh, God of the Hebrews, has said. For how long will you continue to resist, refusing to respond to my presence? Let my people go. Then they can choose to work with me." Shemot, the names, should never have been called Exodus. 10:3. Let my people go. Maybe the four most famous words ever spoken. Let my people go. Go. My people. Let. What does all that mean? It means you have a choice. The choice is to keep abusing God's people or let them go. If you're an anti-Semite, you may want to think of that. If you are religious and you're trying to constrain God's people, either slandering them and demeaning them, as the case with Christianity, or killing them, as is the case with Islam, or Rabbinic Judaism, where you have total control over their lives, you may want to let God's people go. My people. He spoke of the Hebrews, the children of Israel. Yahweh's people are not Christians. They're not Muslims. They're not Haredi. My people are the children of Israel. Don't ever forget it. Go. Release them. Release the children of Israel to go with Yahweh. Let my people go. Then they can choose to work with me. Abad. You see, God is not looking for deadbeats. He's not looking for those who serve a religious agenda. He's not looking for people who are independently entrepreneurish, business-like, captains of industry apart from him. Then they can choose of their own free will to work with me. That's God's highest calling of man, to work with Yahweh. It is what we are called to do. It is what did not happen in the garden. What was supposed to happen in the garden is that the first man, Adam, was designated to work the garden with Yahweh. He just didn't. And that's why that experience ended. And if you're not working with Yahweh, then you don't have a relationship with him, not a relationship that matters. You can pretend that he's your God and that you're covenant and that all's well because you call yourself covenant or you know his name, but that's not enough. You know, here we are. You couldn't be more already properly positioned for an eternity with God than I am. I've been working with him for 5,400 years. You know, we've got a great relationship. I was first taken by God when I was 365 years old, and I began my journey with him as the sixth descendant of the first man, Adam, and we've been together ever since. We've worked together ever since. I will ultimately have had 6 lives working with Yahweh. And that's what I do. I work with Yahweh. I get up before the sun and I work long after the sun is down every day, 7 days a week. And it's not just that I've been doing this for the last 25 years of this life, but I've done it in numerous other lives, and you should too. Then they can choose to work with me. the most productive use of our lives. God has more to say about all of this. He says, speak to the entire witnessing community of the children of Yisrael to say, on the 10th of this month, each individual should obtain on their behalf, for their benefit, a male lamb for their father's family, a lamb for the household. Shemot, the names, should not have been called Exodus 12, 1 through 3. And if the household is just too small to exist with, endure with a lamb, then he and his neighbor, whose family is nearest him, should take him into account, computing the quality of the number of souls with each individual according to the mouths to nourish by the lamb. I share that with you from Shemot 12:4 so that you know that this is a family affair. We're not supposed to leave people out doing their own thing. If somebody is alone here, we had two men who were covenant who were alone, Perry and Rich. They're now part of our household. We're sharing our lamb this evening. We're doing so as a family. And we know that the purpose of that lamb is to nourish us. And then we are also celebrating all that lamb has contributed as Dode fulfilled Pesach almost 2,000 years ago. The lamb should be complete. It should be able to fulfill its purpose. A male, a son, a year-old. Yes, that lamb will be a son. The lamb was a male, and the lamb was able to complete its purpose. He shall be, for you, actually taken from the most productive of the rams. That would be Dode, wouldn't it? From the most powerful of all, the strongest, even if he is the most stubborn. And he shall be for you, existing on your behalf, to be kept, to be cared for, and observed as a witness for you. The 14th day of this month. And the entire community of witnesses of the children of Israel shall take his life to make the connections required to understand all around, to make those necessary connections at the evening, at sunset. Do you know why the lamb comes in on the 10th day and comes into the family on the 10th day and spends 4 days with the family before that lamb is taken? Because Dode is Adam. And Adam came into our home, this planet, 4,000 years, 4 days before he was sacrificed on our benefit in year 4,000 Yah. That's why the lamb exists in the home for 4 days. Then they should take at that moment some of the blood, and you place it upon the 2 upright pillars of the doorway, and also upon the lintel, upon the homes where to receive the benefits of the relationship, they eat it along with them. Just a smattering of the blood. Now, we live in a different time. This is not an agrarian community. There are very few shepherds around, and very few people butcher their own food. In fact, I think in most places you get in trouble for doing it. We buy our lamb at a store. We do bring it into the house before Passover. And because of the way that it's prepared, there's no blood left in the lamb. And so rather than smearing our meat on the door, we take a little red wine and we tap it on the door, just symbolically to say we understand that it's the blood that was shed by the body of the Passover lamb that opens the doorway to life. And so that is the symbolism of all of this. And also upon the lintel and upon the homes where to receive the benefits of the relationship, it is eaten with them. And they shall genuinely eat and be nourished. That's the purpose of the lamb. It is to nourish the family. It's not given to God. So it's not a sacrifice in the terms of an animal sacrifice. No, it's a meal to be consumed, to nourish the family. And thus they should genuinely eat and be nourished by the Bashar, the human herald representing this celebration during this night. God says, roast it over a fire, and we're going to have the first fire this evening, and always eat it in proximity to matzah, unyeasted bread, along with bitter herbs, al-mayor, in addition to the edible plant seasoning with a bitter, acrid, or pungent taste. Now, we have our oil and bitter herbs at the ready. Our flatbread without yeast has been baked. Our lamb will go on the grill about a few minutes before 6 o'clock. So ready to eat as the sun tucks behind a hill to the west of us by 6:15. That's our schedule. We're on God's schedule. He said, you should not consume any part of it raw or without due consideration. I want you to think about it. Roast it. It's safer that way. It's more flavorful that way. You get to enjoy the fire that way. But don't be so savage that you eat it raw. Think about what we're doing here. Don't boil it either, cooking it in water. No, this is to be roasted over a fire. But instead, as a condition, roasting it above the fire, his head with his legs and his inner parts close by. God wants you to realize that that lamb is symbolic of a man with a head, with legs, with guts. And he is very, very close to all the symbolism of that lamb because his name is Doe, the beloved Son of God. And you shall make certain that nothing remains of him until the morning. That's essential, that the remainder of the lamb, the remainder of its body, is incinerated that night. You know, as I shared, we do lamb chops or rack of lamb such that we have a modest portion, such that when we're finished with our meal, that which remains, we put right back on the fire and let it devour it, because the body of the sacrificial lamb will have served its purpose. And God wants to make absolutely certain that you would have to be a nincompoop to believe in bodily resurrection of the Passover lamb. So it is destroyed that night. So Christians, you are that nincompoop. And so the remainder of it, prior to the approach of morning and the approach of the bull, you should literally and consistently burn up in the fire. That's God's teaching in this regard. There can be no bodily resurrection. It's not about bodies, it's about souls. And therefore, in this manner, you should always be nourished by it. And have the tie fastened around your waist with your sandals on your feet. I've got them ready to go, and your staff in your hand, ready to go. Ready to guide the sheep. You should eat it, an anticipation of what will occur. Appreciating this with a sense of urgency. This is Pesach. This is Passover. To approach Yahweh. Shemot, the names, should not have been called Exodus 12:11. Then I will at that time pass over and travel through the realm of the religious and political oppressors, Mitzrayim, wherever they may be, even if it's not in that locale, but wherever we find religious and political oppression. During this night, and I will strike every firstborn in the nation where there is political and religious oppression, in the cauldrons of cruel persecution, where people are confined and restrained by governments, including man and even the beasts. And upon all of the gods of Egypt, I will act, executing judgment. I am Yahweh. I am Yahweh. Therefore, the blood will exist for you as a sign, as the oath, as this message conveying such important information regarding the willingness to serve in this manner. Upon the homes where to receive the benefits of the relationship while being led along the correct path to get the most out of life, you are at that time, wherever you may be. So when I see the blood, then I will observe Passover, providing immunity while protecting you. It is for you. And the plague leading to death and destruction from corruption shall not exist among you when I strike within the realm of political and religious oppression. This is how we distinguish ourselves from the political, from the religious, from the anti-Semitic, from the conspiratorial, is that we celebrate Pesach the correct way, as God has described it here, with a full understanding and anticipation of what God would do on this day. It's a day where the beneficiaries are not religious and they are not political. And the victims on this day, those who lose their lives ultimately, are the religious and the political. This day will exist on your behalf as a zikaron, as a celebration of the most memorable of men who provide you with an inheritance right. And you should genuinely celebrate it as a festival feast to approach Yahweh, as part of the cycle of life throughout every generation. I don't think anyone needs to ask, how do I celebrate Passover? Do they? God has said, this is how you do it. Celebrating it with the proper attitude as part of the cycle of life, no matter where you live, all so that you can approach Yahweh, so that you are distinct from the religious and political. Continually and genuinely celebrate it as a festival feast with him. And that him can be with Dode, who serves as the lamb, or with Yahweh as his father. Doing so is an engraved prescription for living that cuts you into this relationship from beginning of time throughout all time, forevermore. Which means that even during the celebration of Sukkah, when we return to the garden, we will be celebrating Passover every year. And that means forever into futurity, that even when that 1,000-year celebration of our return to the garden on Sukkah is complete, forever would include that even in the realm where time simply exists, we will have the cadence of earth time, such that each year, on the 14th day of the first month, when the barley is ripe and the flax is in bloom, under the light of a full moon, we will savor and celebrate Pesach with our God. Then Moshe, the one who draws out, summoned all of the elders, the older individuals of Israel, and he said to them, of your own volition, select and grasp hold of and choose to pull away for yourselves a lamb from the flock in accordance with your extended family, and take its life for the Passover, for Pesach. Shemoth names 12:21. And you should obtain a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood, which is in the basin, and then touch the lintel along with the 2 doorposts from the blood which is in the basin. Hyssop. When the Adamah Parah is sacrificed on Teruah, do you know what God says should be added to it? Hyssop. He wants you to know that hyssop speaks of the curative properties of this marvelous herb, and that it is symbolic of Passover. So, another insight that is so important. We've seen and discussed hyssop as it appears throughout God's story. And it is one of the signs that he assigns to those who are most beneficial in fulfilling the Moedim. And then, no individual among you shall go out of the doorway of his home until the morning and until the dawn of the preceptive bull. Well, fortunately, for all of us, the dawn of the preceptive bull is here. Then Yahweh will angrily pass over and travel through the realm to defeat the religious and political oppressors. But when he sees the blood on the lintel of the door and on the 2 upright pillars of that doorway, then Yahweh will observe Passover, providing immunity while protecting that doorway. And he will not allow the devastating destruction to come inside to plague your homes. In other words, you'll live. Pesach is the door to life for those in the covenant family who observe it. You should closely examine and carefully consider this message, because this is an engraved prescription for living that cuts you into the relationship for you to approach on behalf of your children, providing testimony throughout eternity. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Indeed, when you come to exist within the land, the realm which, for the benefit of the relationship, Yahweh is giving to you according to what he has stated. You should choose to closely examine and carefully consider this considerable undertaking. Oh my, was it a considerable undertaking, a work which required so much in service and tremendous effort to conduct and fulfill as it was designed. But this is what Dode did. Indeed, when it happens that your children say to you, "What does this considerable undertaking mean to you?" Shemoth 12:26. Then you should say, "This is Ha Pesach. This is the Passover to approach Yahweh." How can you celebrate Pesach if you don't know, share, enjoy, proclaim Yahweh's name? And the answer is you can't. It's essential that you know that Yahweh is God's name if you wish to approach him on Passover. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. To lead along the proper path to get the most out of life and to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, he observed Passover, providing immunity while protecting in a straightforward manner, using a quite linear approach for the families and homes of the children of Yisrael, of those who engage and endure with God, doing so in Mitzrayim, the crucibles of political and religious oppression, when he afflicted the religious and political oppressors, of those who tried to constrain and control. And he defended and then snatched away and saved our families, our Barath. Respectfully, showing their appreciation, the people announced their intent and declared that they understood. Shemoth names Exodus 12:27. Isn't it a lovely story? So uplifting, so powerful, so nurturing. It continues, and Yahweh spoke these words to Moshe, the one who withdraws and draws out, in order to promise and to say, this is Korah called out, Leviticus 23:1. Under the auspices of free will, convey the word of God on behalf of the children of Yisrael, and say to them, the Moedim, the restoring witness to the eternal testimony for the appointed meeting times, are to show the way to the benefits of the relationship. These Moedim are not Jewish holidays. They're not part of Judaism. They are not to be ignored by anyone who wishes to have a relationship with God. They're invitations to meet with Yahweh. They show the way to the benefits of the relationship. You are continually and genuinely invited to attend. Doing so, recognizing they are set apart. They are mikre, invitations to be called out and meet, summons for the people to gather together for this specific purpose, including reading and reciting, being welcomed, becoming known. Of course, it's from my to ponder the who, what, why, when, where, and how of Korah, being invited and summoned, being called out to become welcomed and known by reading and reciting. God says, these are my Moedim, my restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony of the appointed meeting times. Korah called out, Leviticus 23:2. For 6 days, act, engaging in the service of the spiritual messenger, of the Malaka, of the heavenly envoy. And on the seventh day, there will be a Shabbat observance, a Shabbaton, all things pertaining to the Shabbat, to consider that which is associated with the promise and the purpose of the set-apart nature of this invitation to be called out and to meet the Mikra. The spiritual messenger works, doing everything such that you don't have to do anything. It is a Shabbat observance to approach Yahweh, to live and abide throughout time. Pesach is to live forever. It opens the doorway to life. These godly Moedim, these eternal witnesses, to the restoring testimony regarding the appointed meeting times are of Yahweh, and they are set apart and special. They're mikre, invitations to be called out and meet, which to provide the way to the benefits of the relationship, you are invited to attend so that you can be called out and welcomed, so that you can draw near through them at the appointed time of the eternal witness on behalf of the restoring witness and their eternal testimony. So in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, for the purpose of understanding, making the proper connections, at twilight is Passover. The 14th day begins at sunset on what we would consider to be the 13th day. So it's the 13th evening following a new moon. This one being the one nearest to the spring equinox, according to Yahweh. Kara called out Leviticus 23:5. Now, there's so many other instructions regarding Pesach that we'll continue with what God had to say. And his name is Yahweh. He again spoke to Moshe in the desolate wilderness of Sinai, which is synonymous with Choreb, transliterated Sinai. In the second year, after they had come out from the realm of the crucibles of political and religious oppression. In the first month, saying the children of Israel will act upon and engage in Pesach, Passover, at the appointed time, according to the restoring witness. This is Bamidbar, Numbers 9:2. On the 14th day of this month, for the purpose of providing insights leading to understanding between the sunsets, each of them, engage, consistently and continually acting upon its intent, consistent with all of its inscribed prescriptions for living, which is why I'm sharing it again, and we're expanding our series on basics pursuant to Passover. And according to everything it offers to resolve disputes and by making the right decision so that you can understand what it accomplishes, doing so thoughtfully. And then you can engage and act upon all of this. Bamidbar in the wilderness, 9:3. And my friend, you don't have to have them all up. It's a lot to share. I'm citing one statement after another, and it becomes a lot to read. All of these statements actually can be found with a lot of commentary, of course, interspersed between them. but in the 4th volume of Yada Yahweh, appropriately named Mikra, are invitations. These are invitations to meet with God, which is just what he happened to have just said. And so Moshe spoke about this matter to the children of Israel, to those who engage and endure with God, for them to act upon and engage in. Is this now the 10th time that God said that the purpose of Pesach Passover was for you to act and engage? Was for you to do something, for you to celebrate it, profit from it, do what God is asking, act upon it, engage in it. This is Passover, God says. Pesach, Passover. Numbers 9:4. The individual who himself is clean as a result of the relationship is morally pure, but does not exist on the way when he refrains from and refuses to act upon Pesach, Passover. That soul shall be cut off and separated from the family. Now, what does that mean? That means if you're a goody two-shoes, I got a pure heart, I've not done anything seriously wrong, I'm good to go, God's going to take me right on in, no big deal, we got this covered. I'd say, no, I don't care how puritanical you might think you are. You might think you're perfect. I don't give a crap. I have a way, and I've delineated my way, and this is my way. And that way begins with the doorway labeled Pesach. It's the doorway to life. No matter how pristine you may think your soul is, you don't celebrate and observe Passover with me, you are cut off and separated. You're not part of those who engage and endure with God. Goodbye. That soul is cut off and separated. This is because Yahweh's sacrificial offering to approach was not present at the appointed time in accordance with the eternal testimony pursuant to the restoring witnesses. Ba Moed Hu. That individual will bear his guilt. Ooh. You see, you can't celebrate matzah without first celebrating Pesach, because Pesach is the doorway to matzah. And without matzah, you retain your guilt. So these go hand in hand. They're essential to understand how they work together. What Doe did in 33 CE, year 4000 Yah, the 4th day that lamb was in the home, to open the doorway to life and then carry our guilt away. And if you don't know that, you don't capitalize upon that, you don't act upon that, then you will die with your guilt. And it is interesting here that what God is saying, you don't celebrate this correctly, you're not going to benefit from matzah, but you're running the risk of being eternal, but eternally guilty. And you know what souls who are eternally guilty go, don't you? So if a guest or a newcomer, a ger, someone from a different racial or cultural, even geographic community and temporary inhabitant, or one who is just on a sojourn with Yisrael, who has gathered together to live among you, not blocked off and separated from Israel, as I know some people who think they're covenant, but they've got a block site. They have no interest in Israel. They only care about themselves, and they're actually doing themselves a tremendous disservice. If you're going to celebrate Passover, you need to be gathered together and living among Jews, celebrating Pesach as part of Yisrael, on behalf of Yisrael. And if you want to engage then in Pesach to approach Yahweh, then the inscribed prescriptions reveal the manner in which you are to regard Pesach. But don't do it if you're not devoted to, traveling with, on this journey, on behalf of, and in collaboration with Yisrael, such that it's consistent with his means to exercise good judgment regarding the ways to resolve disputes in this manner. Then, doing likewise, you should consistently engage, but do it in the manner that I have just discussed and God has prescribed. One set of inscribed instructions to cut you into the relationship will exist for you, for the guest, this newcomer and visitor, this one making the sojourn with Yisrael, and for the Ezra. You recall Ezra Ethan Ezraki? Yes. And so he is part of the guide to this day. On behalf of the land of Israel. 9:14. During the day, the tabernacle, the Mishkan, this large portable dwelling place and grand tent, it's from Shakam, to settle down, reside, and abide, was set up, and a cloud covered the tabernacle of the tent of the restoring witness to the enduring testimony. And during the evening, there came to exist an appearance similar to fire. And it was over and upon this large tent, the tabernacle, until the morning, the arrival of the perceptive bull. Bamidbar in the wilderness, Numbers 9:15. And so it shall happen again when the tent of the restoring witness is erected on the Temple Mount, all the way through the process to the sacrifice of that Bakor, bull, who will also give his life at sunrise as Yahweh ignites the flame of his presence above him. God ties his stories together in so many ways, all to provide word pictures of what we should expect. Moving on, he says, observe by closely examining and thoughtfully considering the connection with the month of Abib. So what's the connection between Passover and Abib? That's what God just told us to consider. If you want to celebrate Passover correctly, you consider this insight regarding the connection with the month of Abib. All right. Abib is the first month of the year. So we're going to go through the doorway to life, have our souls purged of guilt, and join Yahweh's family right at the get-go, the first month of the year. Why delay? Second, Abib speaks of receptive barley. Barley is the grain crop that Yahweh uses most often to depict his covenant children, as they are souls represented by that barley who are receptive and still growing, that he can adopt into his family. So Abib is about receptive and growing barley. And because it's the first crop, that barley is young, it's still receptive and still growing, as opposed to Shabuah, where it's mature and standing grain. and it's wheats so that it represents Goyim and Israelites. Abib. What else do we know about Abib? It is the time when the flax is in bloom. What is the flax used for? To make linen. Who would wear the linen? The high priest. What would the high priest do? To anoint the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant to restore the relationship of Israel, correct? What else is noted about that flax? It's got a blue flower. The blue flower is in bloom in Abib, and that blue flower represents the blue of the sky to direct our attention to Shamayim, our heavenly home. These are all connections with the month, this time of renewal, Kodesh, of Abib, of growing grain, which is not yet fully formed, jung. It's barley, it's green, it's growing, it's maturing, it's receptive in the ear before it becomes hard, dried, and shriveled up. He's telling us, telling you, Israel, that you ought to have taken advantage of this before you become so hard-headed, so recalcitrant, that you just shrivel up, your soul shrivels up, because you're just too hard to be receptive. And then engage. Okay, once again, engage, Asha. Act. Celebrate, capitalize, profit from. Pesach, Passover. He didn't say Easter, did he?
No.
Didn't say the Last Supper, did he? No, he didn't say Ramadan either. He didn't say Purim. He didn't say Hanukkah. He didn't say Rosh Hashanah. He said Pesach. Then engage in and act upon Pesach, Passover, to approach not Hashem, not your rabbis, not your fellow Jews, to approach Yahweh, your God. And if Yahweh is not your God, then don't bother. It should be noted that in the month of Abib, Yahweh brought you out, withdrawing you from the crucibles of political and religious oppression. This is what happened in the month of Abib, because, well, you didn't leave Mitzrayim on Passover, you sure as heck did on Matzah, which is the next day. So prepare the sacrificial offering of Pesach, Passover, to approach Yahweh, your God, from the flock of sheep in the morning, to encourage the recognition of the perceptive, contemplative, and discerning bull, seeking out and considering the available information and then responding appropriately to that insightful bull. Bakar. Even on Passover, the lamb was not alone. As we will turn in our concluding program on basics as they pertain to Pesach, you will find that even on this moment of enduring the death of his Bashar body, Dod, the Passover lamb, he was not alone. He was not alone in Sheol either, as he carried our guilt away. So to approach Yahweh your God, pick this lamb from the flock of sheep in the morning to encourage being productive and contemplative, noting and seeking out the discerning bull, pursuant to your home, which to reveal the benefits of the relationship is preferred and chosen by Yahweh so that his name will live and abide there. You know, Yahweh's name right now lives and abides in one place only. Literally one place where Yahweh's name lives and abides. YadaYahweh.com. That's the place. Go to yadayawa.com, and what you will see blazing right in the header, Yahweh, and his menorah, symbolizing his luminaries, and his Moedim right in the middle of his name, Yahweh. 35 books devoted to Yahweh under the designation Yada Yahweh, to know Yahweh. This one would be a good one right now to be reading. It's the one I'm sharing from in this program. It's about the invitations, the mikra, to meet with God, Pesach, Matzah, Bakorim. So where does God's name live today? Where does it abide today? Where does it stay? Where does it remain? Yadaya.com. Go there. Everything is free. God's timeline, all of these translations, a glossary for you to look up the words, presentation of the Dead Sea Scrolls, so you can correct the Masoretic text, a blog so you know how all of this today is part of prophecy and interacting with the news, that so we're witnessing the literal fulfillment of what God has promised us in these last days. A vlog, this program, part of the Yahweh blog, all there for you. Basics as a special header where you can see each of the programs on Pesach, Matzah, Bakurim, and now Shabuah, as we build this basic inventory and library of programs for you there. You'll find the invitations, all of our social media platforms. You'll see all the marvelous songs that Leah has written and the team has produced. Sing beautifully to this occasion. It's all there for you. It's a marvelous site, including now chat, where I would encourage everyone who is part of the covenant. This is your home. This is the home for Yahweh's name. This is where you belong. Communicate with us. Join us. Post there. Comment there. Support one another there. This is the place for Yahweh's name. And yes, Yahweh's name, there was a home for Yahweh's name that was constructed by Solomon, Dode's beloved son, that was on the instructions between Dode and Yahweh, dedicated on Teruah, with the admonition that you should listen to the Nakri, who's now speaking with you. That home no longer exists. And so now the home for Yahweh's name, the place where his name was reintroduced and where it lives, where it abides, where it will stay over the next 1,000 years. Yadaya.com. Please go there. Everything's free. You should not ever eat it in association with yeasted bread, with chametz, which includes yeast, which has become soured and embittered, cruel and worthless, oppressive, which is the nature of this fungus that permeates everything as religion and politics. Don't ever eat it with yeasted bread, with chametz. Now, some people have said, well, you talk about beer and wine, in particular wine in conjunction with Passover. Isn't wine made with yeast? Yes, but by the time the wine is ready to drink, the yeast is dead. It's a living organism that permeates the bread, and it's spoken of in conjunction with bread. Wine is part of the celebration, particularly of Shabuah, and it's symbolic of the blood shed by the Passover lamb. And there is no living yeast in it. For 7 days, as part of this promise, you should consistently consume it with matzah, because Passover is part of chag matzah, unyeasted bread Dabadim, Deuteronomy 16:3. It is the lechem, the bread of affliction and oppression, of persecution and harassment, of oni, of hardship, of great effort, of suffering and pain. And it's from Anna to be responsive, because Dode responded to Yahweh's call, and he allowed the Romans in 33 CE to persecute his body, serving as the Passover lamb. It is the bread of affliction. Keep that in mind, of the price that Dode paid for you to benefit. Don't set a place setting for Elia, particularly if you're religious, because if you do, you need to know that Elia is condemning of religion and politics. If you're religious and political and setting a place setting for Elia, then he's there to eliminate you. And you can't set a place for Dode until you know how to pronounce his name, until you know and can pronounce the name of his God, until you understand that he is the Zeroah that should be on that plate. He is the sacrificial lamb, that he is the very Son of God, his firstborn Bakor, that he is the Messiah, and that he is the returning king who fulfilled Pesach in year 4000 Yah, just as he had foretold. For indeed, you were brought out and taken away, withdrawn and removed from the realm of religious and political oppressors in a hurry and with a sense of great urgency. So in response to this, you should always remember the most memorable of men and proclaim this all of the days of your lives. And you're not going to have more than one unless you capitalize upon this, such that on this day you recognize you were brought out of the land of the crucibles of religious and political oppression. Deuteronomy, the Debatim words, 16:3. And the yeast shall not be seen in your territory within your borders for 7 days. And regarding the flesh of the body, the Bashar, the human herald, which beneficially as a result of this relationship has been endowed and is an ongoing gift as part of the sacrificial offering during the evening of the first and the foremost day. It shall not remain overnight, not until the morning and not until the arrival of the enlightened bull. The Debatim words, Deuteronomy 16:4. The lamb has his day, the bull has his. Neither body remains. The bodies are sacrificed and they're incinerated, because it's the soul that matters and it's the soul that is being liberated. You will continually fail to actually understand and effectively experience that which is associated with the gift of this sacrificial offering of Pesach, Passover, within the context of the one of your interpretations and your reasoning, which Yahweh, your God, is placing before you as a gift to approach. God's foretelling his people, you're going to get it wrong. I know you're going to get it wrong. You're going to miss all of the clues that I provided so that you would know that the sacrificial lamb, the Zeroah, is my beloved son, Dode. I told you as much. He told you as much. You were bewildered by the rabbis. And so at this point, You just don't know. And as God said, if you don't understand the Torah, then you're doomed by your own ignorance, destroyed by your lack of awareness. You need to understand the nature of the sacrificial offering of Pesach if you're going to exist with God. So he says, nevertheless, indeed, it is unto the place to reside, where to show the way to the benefits of the relationship Yahweh your God prefers and has chosen for his name to abide. You want to celebrate Passover with the place where his name abides? Go to yadayah.com. There you'll find this program. It is being conducted as a live stream to be the second episode of the basics pertaining to Pesach. And there'll be another tonight as the third episode. Click on basics. You can play it. You can celebrate Pesach with this behind the scenes, listening to it, enjoying all that God has to share about this special day. Now, as an interesting aside, since Yahweh has consistently referenced the ha-makom, the home, the site, the dwelling, the office, the source, and the place to take a stand, where he has chosen for his name to abide, I want to share something from the introduction to the book of Shemoth, of names of Exodus, that is memorialized in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And this is actually written in the book that I used to render my translations. It's called the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible. The editors discovered that Exodus 15, 16, and 18 actually spoke of a new house prepared for the last days, a time of future glory envisioned as the setting for the Mashiach's earthly reign. They wrote it just like that. And so this reference to the Zeroah, the one who sows the seeds for the harvest, and the Ad, the restoring witness, serving Yisrael during the troubling time before the return of Father and Son, is indeed Yada. And he is speaking on behalf of Moshe and of Dod. This reads, terrible emotional dissonance will come upon them, along with a sense of impeding and impending doom, through the awesome capability and enormous power of your Zeroah, of your protective shepherd, the strong arm, the sacrificial lamb, and the one sowing the seeds for a productive harvest. They will ultimately be silenced and incapacitated, becoming dumb as a stone, while the eternal and restoring witness on behalf of your people passes by unto the region beyond, that is until the family is in accord with the everlasting testimony of the restoring witness, whom you have acquired and redeemed, Yahweh. Come through and cross over now to the other side. Exodus 15, 16. These are all of the metaphors of what God's trying to accomplish, what he wants you to understand, the intent of this day. You will return and include them, and then will embed them in a garden in conjunction with your mountain, doing so as an inheritance. Yes, we're going back to the Garden of Eden. That's the story. From the garden to the garden. It is our inheritance. This is the site to approach your dwelling place, where you have performed the work, Yahweh. You, through your beloved Son, have accomplished this. It is the sanctuary of Yahweh, which your hand has fashioned and formed. It was the hand of Yahweh? Dod. Yahweh will reign forever, eternally serving as a witness. Shemoth names, Exodus 15:18. One powerful tribute after another. I'm going to share one more story with you before we go and begin to celebrate our own Pesach. Don't know if we're seeing scenes from outside, but it is becoming very dusky, and so the long rays of the sun are already dipping behind the mountain behind us. It will soon be sunset here, and time for us to enjoy our meal, celebrating all that God has to offer. Well, the story I want to tell is about Hezekiah. It's one bright light in the midst of the darkness, showing what could become of a religious and political nightmare when one person knows the answer. Even if he is one person among many, if he speaks for the Torah, he can save the many. This plight of Israel was brought on by their rejection of Yahweh and his Torah instructions and the people's preference for religion. But one man stood for Yahweh. His name was Hezekiah. And this is a remarkable story. Yakitz Yah, Hezekiah, means associated with Yah, together with Yah, and as Yah's child. Sent out written letters to all of Yisrael and to Yehudah. And also he wrote a letter to Ephraim and to Manasseh to come to the house and the home of Yahweh in Jerusalem, to attend to act upon, to celebrate, and to engage in the Pesach, the Passover, to approach Yahweh, the God of those individuals who engage and endure with the Almighty. Indeed, he wrote, if you return to Yahweh, if you shub Yahweh, your children and your relatives will find compensation and compassion, mercy and favor. In the face of these captors, you will return and be restored to this land. Who are the captors? There were 185,000 of Assyria's best trained killers lurking outside the gates of the city. You can return to this land. You can be restored. And that is because Yahweh, your God, is merciful. He plays favorites, and he is prone to favoritism and to forgiveness. He will not turn away, and he will not remove his presence from you if you shub for shub or no shub for you, if you shub, if you return, if you change your attitude, your thinking, your perspective, and your direction to him. The biggest little word in all the world, isn't it? If. It's M in Hebrew. Whenever, wherever, however, you shub, you return. And many people gathered together in Jerusalem, the source of instruction on reconciliation, to attend to and to engage in Asha, the festival feast of matzah, of bread without yeast, of which, of course, Passover is the first day. In the second month, a very substantial assembly to approach. In the second month? Well, what happened here is that when Hezekiah found a copy of the Torah that was collecting dust in some corner of the temple, And he began to read it. He said, "Oh my goodness, are we in a whole host of troubles? God is anti-religious, and here we are being religious. He has a prescribed path to protect us, to restore us, to reconcile us unto him, and we have completely ignored it." And as he read through the Torah pursuant to Pesach, he said to God, I'm doing the best I can here, but I don't have enough time to purge the religiosity of these people and get rid of all of the junk here. And I know you're not going to celebrate Pesach with us while we've got idols and religious artifacts surrounding us, and where the people have a preference for religion. And so I need time. Will you give me the time to get this done? And God said, absolutely. Take your time, do it right. You need to purge the people of their religiosity, because the purpose is to remove political and religious guilt, but they're still walling in religiosity. It's not going to do any good, is it? That's why it was the second month. They arose, they took a stand, and they removed and they rejected the altars, which were in Jerusalem, along with all of the incense burners blowing smoke. They rejected and removed them, and they hurled them toward the Kidron Valley, the place of darkness and mourning. Transliterated, the Kidron. It's a ravine which served as Jerusalem's trash disposal site. All for the benefit of Pesach, Passover, on the 14th day now of the second month. But the Loi and the priests had disgraced their purpose, and they were ashamed. So they set themselves apart, and they rededicated themselves by arriving with that which elevates unto Yahweh and to his house. Then they stood up and they presented themselves at their posts, the means for them to exercise good judgment and according to justly resolving disputes, and in a manner that was consistent with the Torah of Moshe, not the Talmud. Moshe is designated here as the man of Almighty God. The priests who officiated sprinkled blood off of their hands as Loi. For indeed, there were many in the assembly who had not set themselves apart and dedicated themselves, and so they needed to that first and foremost so they could serve the people. Therefore, the Loi performed the sacrifice of Pesach, Passover, on behalf of everyone who was not protected or restored, setting them apart to approach Yahweh. This is Dabarim ha-Yomim, words concerning the days, 2 Chronicles 30:17. Passover was for everybody. You need to be resolved to step away from religion and politics, but if you're still covered with that guilt, but you've distanced yourself from it, then you're in the perfect position to benefit from Pesach and Matzah and to have your life extended and your guilt removed. Indeed, because the majority of the people, including many from Ephraim, from Manasseh, from Issachar, and from Zebulun, they simply were not clean when they ate Pesach, Passover. I can tell you that I wasn't clean either the first time I ate it. And it wasn't until eating it and then celebrating matzah on the next day that my guilt was removed, just as is the case with everyone who is genuinely part of this covenant family. We don't have to be perfect to benefit from God's plan. God's plan is designed for the imperfect, because that's the kind of people that God likes, because they're the kind of people who can learn, who make mistakes and grow as a result of them because they're willing to correct them, because they can prove that they are reliable, that when they stumble and fall, they get back up and get going. They see the job through. So they did so in a manner that was somewhat inconsistent with the written word. God's not looking even for us to do Passover perfectly. That's not the purpose of Passover, to do it perfectly, to engage and act upon what God has provided, because he executed the intent of Pesach in an ideal manner with his beloved son Dode. Our job is to capitalize on it. We don't have to have everything right to do that. You just have to have a desire to be right and willing to put in the effort to be right, which means that if you want to know about how to celebrate Passover, don't ask a question about it in the chat room. Go read the book. There's a manual for you. Read it. Learn from it. Listen to these programs. Take the time, invest the effort. Therefore, Hezekiah, Yakitzia, associated with Yah, together with Yah, Yah's child, intervened for them, saying, Yahweh is the one who is good. He's the one who is moral, generous, festive, beneficial, and pleasing. He will reconcile and pardon within certain limits, according to the witness whose inclinations, everyone, I should say, according to the witness, everyone whose inclinations and judgment are prepared to authenticate and support it. If you're ready to validate and then trust what you have heard, God's ready for you to approach, consistently inquiring about, searching for, and learning from Yahweh, Almighty, the God of our fathers. Although we were not in accord with the set-apart sanctuary, still, Yahweh listened. He heard what Yakitzia, Hezekiah, had to say. And as a result, he healed, he repaired, and restored the family. So that really opens up everything for you, doesn't it? It tells you you don't have to perform it on the precise right day. I'm, with my family, going to be celebrating it this evening. You can celebrate it tomorrow. Think it through. Decide what you think is best. Read, learn as much as you can. Review, study, assimilate the information. And what you'll find is that if you go the next step and are doing what we're doing right now, which is to go beyond just learning what God has to say about Pesach, but sharing, you don't have to be the perfect teacher. But if you try to teach those who are eager to know, then you will assimilate that knowledge even more surely than you would if you were simply absorbing it. So based upon this example, everyone who makes an honest effort to validate what Pesach represents, unyeasted bread and firstborn children, and who diligently observes the path to the covenant relationship and is genuine in this process, who is presented to Yahweh in accord with the written instructions of his testimony, you have God's word on it. He's not going to be any different than he was then. You will be restored. And the children of Israel who appeared in Jerusalem acted and they engaged in the festival feast of matzah, of unyeasted bread, for 7 days in great joy and gladness, radiant and cheering concerning approaching Yahweh. I think that attitude is more important than anything else. And the recognition, of course, of Yahweh's name and celebrating with him day after day. The Lowy and their supporters, the priests, became implements for the strengthening and empowerment of those benefiting from Yahweh. Yakitzia, Hezekiah, spoke concerning the motivations and the inclinations of all of the Lowy, the uniters, who were prudent and insightful, showing good judgment in approaching Yahweh, which is the intent of this doorway to life. And then they ate and they were nourished, the eternal witness to the appointed meeting times, doing this for 7 days, continually preparing the animals to be consumed as a fellowship offering, showing their consent to the agreement, and as a way of expressing their personal appreciation for being able to approach Yahweh. Yada la Yahweh, the God of their fathers. Davadim ha-yomim, words concerning the days, 2 Chronicles 30:22. Then the entire assembly decided to continue doing it, engaging in and acting upon it for another 7 days. 7 plus 7. They celebrated Chag Matzah, so they continued doing it, joyfully engaging in it, gladly accepting it. 7 more days. Dabadim ha-yomim, 2 Chronicles 30:23. Even in their darkest hour, with one of the most ruthless regimes in human history, 185,000 warriors strong, versus 4,000 Muslims and tenny rompers on October 7th. 185,000 of the best armed, most ruthless warriors in the world were surrounding the city, camped outside their gates. And yet everyone who participated in Passover was having fun. It's a lesson for all of us. And so everyone was glad. They rejoiced. The entire assembly of Yehudah, the priests and the Lowy, in addition to everyone in the community who came from Yisrael, from those who engage and endure with God, even the foreigners who were sojourning with them, who had come from the land of Yisrael and who lived within Yehudah. This has trickled down at its best, I suppose. One man, albeit formerly egotistical and self-reliant and flawed, read 2 Chronicles 32:25 for that, decided to clean house, to dispense with all of the religious trappings and return to the Torah and to its God, Yahweh. He encouraged others to follow his example, and Yah blessed all of them. For this brilliant moment in time, Yehudah was living up to its name, beloved of Yah. And there was great joy in Jerusalem, the source of teaching and guidance on reconciliation. Indeed, by comparison, from the time of Solomon, the son of David, Melech Yisrael, the king of Israel, there had never been anything like this in all of Jerusalem. This was the most extraordinary event in the life of the city. 2 Chronicles 30:26. So then those who were ministering to the people of the Lowy rose up and they took a stand and they invoked a favor on behalf of the family. Their voice was heard coming as their petition to approach his set-apart dwelling place in the spiritual realm was being offered. Now, as they finished every aspect of this, all Yisrael who learned about this and who were involved in the process went out to the cities of Yehudah. Then they destroyed all of the remaining cultic and stone pillars. And they cut down all of the Asherah vestiges. And they broke down and tore apart and demolished the hilltop shrines, along with all of the associated altars, every trace of religion, throughout all of Yehudah and Benjamin, as well as in Ephraim and Manasseh, until they had finished and completed the job of ridding Yisrael of religiosity. Only then did all of the children of Yisrael return restored. Shub, coming back, each individual to his community with his own inheritance. Every choice has a consequence. This one was very, very good. Therefore, Yakitzia, Hezekiah, acted accordingly, doing all of these good and valuable, productive things throughout Yehudah, being upright and straightforward, being trustworthy and reliable in the very presence of Yahweh, his God. And in all of the work which to show the way to the benefits of the relationship he initiated in the service and support of the household and family of the Almighty, and in accord with the Torah, the teaching and guidance, as well as with the instructive conditions of the relationship, he consistently sought the way by learning. He learned how to approach his God with every thought, with every decision, with every inclination. He engaged, and therefore he prospered, and he became useful. So Yah was saved, Hezekiah, along with the inhabitants of Jerusalem, from the very hand and the power of Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, and from the hand and the power of the others, guiding and sustaining them from all sides. And 185,000 combatants went poof. So much better than the IDF from loudmouth politicians or rabbis. God acted with one malach. He took them all out. He was pleased with his people. They were celebrating something that was really extraordinary. With their God, they had come home. Will you, Yisrael, especially on this day? Thank you for listening. We will return to another live stream celebrating Pesach as part of Basics this evening, again, exactly 1 hour from now, hopefully with a blazing fire and after a lovely meal. I thank you all for listening and look forward to being with you again later this evening. Good night for now.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.